Like the beat of your heart, Mother Earth sends out a healing tone that hits your body and soul. It moves around inside of you. It has to be in the flow of life.
This is the hottest place on earth, Death Valley, California, homeland to the ancient Timbisha Shoshone people.
My ancestors have been here forever. During the summer times, they would go higher up towards Wild Rose and get pine nuts and pick different foods up that way and do the hunting and stuff. And then they would travel back down during the cooler months, or they would head towards Beatty. It just depends on. They would head towards Beatty for antelope and stuff like that, green water to hunt rabbit. But during the hottest part of the time, they would really never be down in the valley floor. It was always the heat with no electricity and no, so they would go where springs were and travel to the springs and stuff. The food, there's plenty of food in their hunting. They managed to accumulate exactly what they needed. And then the beans and the powder that they used to make out of the honey mesquite and the pine nuts and other plants, they would store as they would travel. That way, until when they would come home, they would have places that they would stop where there were springs at, and they would have, a little spot where they had stored food. So they would have that little ration there, and then they would continue on home. So for some reason, they picked this place. It's beautiful. It's unique. It's a valley of change. There's springs everywhere. And my family, they knew where it all was. And as they would go, they knew exactly in which direction to go, where the springs exactly were. So.
Yeah, and there's a river.
Lake Manly, and then the Armagosa River that comes here. There's two aquifers that break off the Armagosa River that comes to Death Valley. Yes.
Yeah, and that's a very unique river because it's underground most of its length. Is that true?
It goes from further up past Ash Meadows, but then it heads towards Shoshone. And I didn't know that it also goes to Toccopa Hot Springs, down to China Ranch, and then back around further down, back around, and comes out at Badwater. But a lot of it goes down and above. And sometimes when you travel from Shoshone or Death Valley Junction heading towards Shoshone and down that way, sometimes it'll be dry. Sometimes you'll see the Armagosa River when it's on top, on the floor, and you'll see it flowing. Sometimes you'll be lucky enough to see that river flowing, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. I haven't been there enough to have wandered the land and really seen it in different times of the year and everything, but the images that I've seen are really quite stunning and amazing. I mean, it's obviously a very lush and complex ecosystem that supported numerous species and animals and people. So what kind of animals would congregate there?
You've got the pupfish. There's 26 at least 26 species of plants. There's fish. There's 28 endangered species here. You've got the devil's pupfish, which is only here, no place else, over at Devil's Hole. You've got the birds, I can't even think of their names now. Pupfish, plants, snails, insects. I think they were saying the other day there's maybe 4 or 5 different pupfish over at Ash Meadows. And we also over here at Salt Creek down here in the valley. There's right now you can't go down there because of the Hurricane Hillary, but the pupfish have tripled the amount that's there. It's actually, I seen a picture of it the other day, and there's tons. So.
Wow. And you're the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for the Timbisha Shoshone tribe. Is that right?
Yes.
And so are you concerned mainly in that job position with cultural resources?
Yes, that and protecting the water, protecting the land, the habitat, the vegetation, just, because
Right.
everything is a resource for us, for everybody. So yes, as much as
So
like,
when we think of culture, it's the land and the water and everything that sustains life and the life itself and the tools maybe that were used or that you use in fishing and all of the
yes,
things that go along with living there. The total picture of life.
exactly, exactly. And
That's
protect
really,
behind the ancestors, that what they had left behind as well. Yeah.
hmm. Well, there's a problem. And that problem we've seen at Thacker Pass and other places where mining and extraction had become very lucrative and are subsidized by companies and by the federal government in different ways. And here then we have Ash Meadows, which you described as being lush and beautiful and home to many species, where they're also considering some level of lithium mining. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes. Rover metals.
Mm-hmm.
They've been trying to come in. It's been about a year we've been fighting them. They were denied. They gave us a project plan, and BLM denied the first one, which is wonderful. They haven't turned another one back in. We've been to Washington, D.C. trying to get a mineral rights. We've talked to Congress. We've talked to um, several of the people in Beatty, the people of Armagosa, the community here, Park Services with us as well. Um, we're just trying to keep them, because of the fact that if they just make one mistake drilling, it's going, are they, one mistake isn't acceptable, because of the fact if they can't cap it, that's a possibility that we're going to lose water here and other places. And then to top it off, if they do drill and succeed, what's going to happen to the habitat? What's going to happen to the vegetation? They may say that it's going to adapt to it, but really, in reality, are they going to adapt to it in 5 years? Look at bottled water right now. When I was a kid, we drank water from hoses and creeks, and wherever you wanted to drink water, we were fine. But now you drink bottled water and you still feel dehydrated. Look at all the stuff that they're taking out of water now. It's sad, because all the minerals and stuff that they take out of the earth, they think isn't harming us in any way, and it is. And the animals out there, yeah, it's fine now, but what, they haven't had time to adapt to it yet. In time, here in a little while, they're gonna not be able to. Are they really gonna adapt to it? Is the vegetation really gonna grow back the way it was? And then look how they leave the land. They say, yeah, we put a $50,000 bond, but what is a $50,000 bond to them? They got millions of dollars. They're not even from the United States. Do they care what it looks like when they leave? They don't have to come back here. I know we have to have the lithium mines, but be a little bit more, how would you say it, more maybe concerning when you go and pick someplace, and research where you're choosing, because some of these places that you're choosing just isn't acceptable at all. I mean, no place is right, but we can't stop you on every place of, every piece of land. But some of this land, isn't for it.
It looks like with those boreholes, they're planning for some sort of extraction like they're doing at Salton Sea, of like sink a geothermal well at Salton, and then they bring up the water, and in a second stage, they extract the lithium. Is that where they're headed, to your knowledge?
That's possibly where they bring up the lithium, and then they extract the water back down in a brine. And then the brime's like a thick clay. But what a lot of the places that I've gone and site visited at, what there becomes a problem when the clay is in time, you're not going to be able to keep putting it down, and that clay hardens it down there, and you're not going to be able to push very much clay in there. They keep putting that brine down there, and how many holes are you going to have to dig to keep putting brine down? You say that it's going to be easy to put it back. It isn't going to be easy to put it back. And you're still not putting everything back in the ground as it is. So, and they say that they're not using very much water. That's not true. They're actually using quite a bit of water. It's like Rhyolite Ridge. They bought up a lot of the water rights out in Fish Lake Valley. Why do you need all the water rights if you're not going to use that much water?
Well, that's a lucrative deal, right? When you get those water rights,
Yeah,
then you can trade them and sell them and move them and send them to Arizona and the Saudi alfalfa farms and all those places that use a ton of water and are willing to pay for it.
yep,
I mean, they haven't talked about it maybe, right? But I mean, there's a market for that. That's dollars.
exactly.
So we don't know.
No, we don't.
So we don't know exactly how they're going to pull up the brine or the water and extract the lithium, and how it's going to go back down, and how this marvelous plan is going to work. And then we also don't know what they're going to do with the water rights.
Nope.
Is that correct?
Nope, not yet. Ash Meadows right now, we're fighting for the mineral rights to see if I'm working with the Armagosa Conservancy, who I've really worked hard with this last year, and they're fighting to get a 20-year mineral rights. That way we could stop it from any mine trying to come in at this time, so that we can come up with a plan to protect Ash Meadows and the area around it for right now.
Yeah, well, this is a big issue in tribal communities and in Indian country, that these projects happen really fast. Like at Thacker Pass, they rushed a NEPA through at the last few days of the Trump administration. And it seems like the tribal community there didn't really have time to plan. They didn't really have time to look at all the factors and say, okay, what are we going to do? What's the proper course of action? Where do we want to come in? Is that true? I mean, that seems like a really huge, pervasive problem in Indian country.
It is. It is. There's tons of mines coming in. We don't find out till the last minute. We don't get to go out and do the surveys and monitor areas until they already start digging. We don't, 106 consultation doesn't happen till later. Then all of a sudden they're already started.
Well, let's talk about that just a little bit for the people that are listening who don't know. So what is Section 106?
It's consultation between the tribes. It's government to government between the tribe and the BLM and the mining company that's proposing to do the project.
Right, and it's a federal law, and
Yes.
it's part of the National Historic Places Act, if I have that correct,
Yes.
of 1966.
Yes.
Yeah, it's federal law. They're obligated to abide by that law.
And yes. And do they? They do, but it's 106 consultation is one phone call to tribal chair, that one phone call can be 106 consultation to them. When really we need to be out there on the floor, on the valley floor where they're planning on doing the project and monitoring right along with them. There's so much history, our history out there, that they don't realize. I mean, what if it was their backyard that we were digging in? What if it was their cemetery where their family was laying at that we were digging in? We don't believe in digging up our ancestors, and that's what's happening now. Is every time you turn around, ancestors are being dug up. And that's not acceptable. That hurts, and they don't realize that, just because they're out there, but it's like my auntie said, our church is out there. It's not in a building, it's out there. Our home was out there. That's where my family, my ancestors lived. They lived off the land. And where they buried our people, it was where they laid. you know, and now to dig them up isn't right,
Well, which gets into another federal law called NAGPRA,
which we're dealing
Native
with.
Native American Graves Repatriation Act,
Yep.
Protection and Repatriation Act.
Yep.
So they're stumbling upon graves and suddenly they're not abiding by that law, or they didn't predict where they were, or they didn't. They're
You just
supposed to walk the land, right?
Yeah. But a lot of times you don't take tribal out there. Tribal knows where to detect this stuff at. Tribal knows how our people did things. Not everybody, you know, a lot of times we've gone out and we find stuff that hasn't been documented. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times. I mean, how hard is it to start from the very beginning with tribes? It's not that hard.
Yeah, all you have to do is ask questions.
Yes. And
And
we'll
tribal
know.
people, in my understanding and my experience, have been very happy to answer those questions.
We're very willing to start at the beginning, but they seem to think that, you know, it's like in the middle when they come and find us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So one day,
Well,
hopefully I'll
at
change.
Thacker Pass, they gave the okay. They gave the okay to start digging, and it was before Section 106 had been fulfilled completely, and before the NEPA process had been fulfilled completely and thoroughly, which also includes good faith efforts and communication to work with tribal people, which arguably didn't happen because they said the same thing that you said. Well, they didn't come and talk to us. They didn't come and talk to the elders.
Mm-mm. No, it's sad.
So it's kind of a weird question, but how do they get away with that?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that because they seem to be getting away with it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems to be the pattern, right? I mean, that's why I'm doing these radio broadcasts, because I've had some experience with chasing solar around solar development and those kinds of things. And they had always been able to find the answers and able to abide by the process, and they didn't always.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of the applicant material wound up coming out in California Energy Commission and BLM reports. Like they just took it word for word and copied paragraphs.
Yes.
So that was my experience. And as a citizen of the United States, I mean, I'm not particularly happy with the way my government is proceeding in these cases, both relative to the land and the people.
That's
So
true.
just to say that, you know.
It needs to be changed. It does. Things need to be, you know, it needs to be changed. We need to have some say so of what's happening. And just to talk to us, that's all they have to do. Ask us questions. And for some reason they don't, they know. They say they don't know. They know. It's out there. Everybody knows. And they act like they
Well,
don't.
here's another point or another question, and I'm not just saying this to, you know, get your anger up or anything, but it's been said to me, so I wanted to run it by you. So when you look at Ash Meadows and the Fish and Wildlife Department website, that they're very proud of saying that there's 12 or 14 endangered species out there on the land that they're protecting, but they don't really talk about people.
No. It's all about you know, the tribes a long time ago all met there for ceremonies and stuff like that. And it is a lot about the animals, protecting the habitat, protecting the wildlife out there. And it's like the lady said over there, it's going to end up being the pupfish that saves Armagosa. It is going to end up being the pupfish out there that saves the town of Armagosa, because it is a very small town. You have to be there. And just to hear the animals and sit by the springs and listen to the springs, it's a peaceful place. It's a healing place. And it's kind of something, how would I, it just is, it's its own unique place that unless you go out there, you're going to think that oh, this is just something in the middle of the desert. It's not. It's the water is as clear blue as can be, and you can see the water coming from the earth. You can see where it's coming out from the aquifers. You can, I mean, it just, you just got to see it. It's a special place, and everybody that I've seen that went out there have said the same thing. Just to see the boardwalk and some of the areas that you can go out there and sit near the water and just listen to the animals, it's just peaceful. You know, it's a place worth saving. And like I said, you could travel, just drive around and to see all this water and then drive off and wonder where it goes. But it actually feeds Death Valley's water. It feeds all the way down to China Ranch. It goes around the mountains and comes back to Badwater. And sometimes you can find an area where it comes out and you can see it, you know, it travels for miles underground and then you see it on top of the, you know, on top of the grounds. You know, a lot of people haven't been to Death Valley in these areas. You just, it's a valley of change. You just have to come see it to know what Death Valley is actually like and know what we're fighting for. There's 28 endangered species here, and that includes all the pupfish.
Well, you said the pupfish may wind up saving Amargosa.
I heard so. I was at a meeting that's a lady said, I hate to say it, but I think the pupfish are going to probably save Amargosa because it's such a small town.
Right. Well, you know, in our dominant society, it seems to work if we have, you know, an image of an elephant or a zebra or some animal that, you know, people can identify with, or they can, you know, see, you know, and understand. And the pupfish is definitely an iconic species for the area, very unique, and lives in some of the most extreme circumstances on the planet, and winds up surviving and succeeding
Yes,
there. So it's a magic and mystery in and of itself, you know, how the pupfish survives
exactly. Exactly.
with the help of creator and all the other species and the whole
Yes.
ecosystem that works together.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not just mechanical, or it's not just, you know, science. It's somehow these species interact, you know, and they do so with a life force, you know, that I think you probably appreciate, and you're probably trying to sort of convey. There's a
Mhm.
big life force there, you know, big energy of creation and life and survival, and the importance of water to everything. And so I really appreciate your descriptions.
Thank you.
Now, you said you didn't want to talk about the monument, so we don't have to.
No, that's a tribal council thing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we won't go there. So what are your concerns about federal intervention as far as the history with the national park? Can you talk about that? What happened when the national park came in?
Um, I don't, I can't, I don't think I should.
Okay,
Yeah.
you mentioned a film. Can you refer to that film?
Women
That
of
was
the
a
Sand.
wonderful film.
Yes. Women of the Sand. That will describe, how our two of our eldest elders spoke in that. And then there's like, they fought their generation fought for the land. And my generation now is trying to protect what we have.
Paulina Steves is a world-class Native American activist.
When she spoke out from her heart to the people, and she was a real good speaker.
Mattie Steves, Pauline's sister-in-law, is one of the last Timbisha basket makers alive today. These two women and a few other tenacious elders are direct descendants of the original Timbisha people who who lived here more than 1,000 years ago. They have struggled for decades to save their arts and culture.
I think it's important to have people do basket work because it's going to be lost if you don't keep it up. Just like our language.
They were neglected by the Bureau of Indian Affairs and punished by the U.S. Park Service.
They tried to get rid of us. That's why they put us in the sand.
Nearby nuclear bomb testing poisoned their ancient homelands. Even their own tribal government has mistreated them. They refuse to give up, but time is not on their side.
Their generation fought for the land. And my generation now is trying to protect what we have, protect the land and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, in their honor to carry on that legacy, right?
Yes, we're going to continue. We're not going nowhere either. We're still here and we're going to continue being here
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully bring more people back in time to see. So,
Wow, that's really awesome. Well, I think of all the things that were written about Timbisha and about the Shoshone peoples in general by the conquerors, and the dominating society. And they really didn't get the Shoshone or the Paiutes. They didn't really understand their life ways or how they found food or how they occupied those wide, expansive territories and, all of these communities and governances, the way that this wide, big area was governed.
they managed here. It wasn't easy. It's still
Mm-hmm.
really not, in the summer, it's hard living here in Death Valley. I can imagine not having air conditioning and having to travel, and climb these mountains out of here because, we're in a valley out here at the bottom. And every place you go, you have to climb out.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it. They for hundreds and hundreds, they don't even know time here that they were here, and they managed to survive here, and we're going to continue to survive here.